Yeah.
Okay. May I have your age?
56.
And your name?
Efuma.
Efuma, where are you from?
West Oakland.
West Oakland?
Yeah.
How did you get your name, Efuma?
It's a name that I've been had since 93.
93?
People been calling me Efuma. It means everlasting friend.
And so this is pretty much the nickname that you just came across to, huh?
Well, they came across it. Somebody,
Okay.
I was named, somebody named me this name.
All right.
Yeah, based on my character, who I am as a person.
And so the question is, how did you get into this situation that you're in right now?
When I got out to the joint, the penitentiary, and it was just one of them things where your family is not there, they died, passed away, or whatever, moved away. So I'm just doing it on my own right now until I can get on my feet.
And so how long ago did you just get out?
1 year.
A year ago?
Yeah.
And then how long did you go in for?
So I went in for 30 to life, but did 9 and came out on the new law change to say somebody with the type of crime I got shouldn't have life.
And you were telling me earlier that you were wrongly convicted twice.
Yeah.
Twice. They tried to give you life, and then now you're back out.
Yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit more of that, and how the hell did that happen?
Well, back in 96, back in 95, I got a petty theft for the prior situation, and 3 strikes had just passed in 94, and they got me caught up with a petty theft. First it was a petty theft for the prior. By the time I got done with the court, it was attempted theft, but somehow I ended up going to jail or prison for burglary, a second-degree burglary, because the theft they was trying to get me for was theft by false pretense, but there was never anything taken, so they had to modify the charges to attempted theft by false pretense, which is actually no such crime. So they had to do their little motions and everything to get that situated, but by the time they got all that situated, I just ended up going to a prison for a second-degree burglary, basically just for being in the store now because the crime in which I was supposed to have committed could not even be proven. That was the first time. And that's how I got out, because the law changed and they said that somebody with a petty theft or that such thing should be having no life sentences. So they let us out. I got out in 2013, and shortly after that, I picked up a couple of charges that was basically bogus too, because I was a victim of a crime, but because I didn't want to be the snitch, somehow the charges flipped on me, and they had the people lying on me saying that I assaulted them, and I ran out the house and attacked these 3 people, 3 men, you know what I'm saying, by myself, and they look like, in the photos, they look like they fresh up out of a photo shoot. If you look at my photo, it look like I'm fresh up out of Baghdad. They beat the brakes up off me, and the police let it happen like that by saying, well, apparently they got to be telling us the truth because you didn't want to tell us your version of what happened, so we're going to lock you up. So long story short, I get to court, we iron out all the little details or whatever, and I was basically forced, even though we take plea bargains and we say that we're not being forced, but really we are in a sense, because there's a promise of leniency or something on the table from you getting 100 years as opposed to a couple of years probation or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So I went ahead and pleaded guilty to it, but it was a lesser charge. It was a lesser related offense, should I say, of that which they was trying to convict me. So instead of it being assault with a deadly weapon with great bodily injury, they gave me assault with a deadly weapon likely to produce great bodily injury, which is non-strike. So I pled guilty to that, put me on probation for 3 years. So long story shorter than that was they reduced it to a assault with a deadly weapon likely to produce great bodily injury, which is a non-strike. I took a probation plea for 3 years. They let me out. So I did basically, so I got that, and that's how I got the paper trail on me. So now every time I turn around, I got the police pulling me over. Well, knowing I'm homeless, knowing I ain't got nowhere to go, but they constantly harass me. And Contra Costa County just not too long ago had an investigation, big one, about police corruption, racial slurs and stuff over their radios and stuff like that. So I was arrested around the time when all this stuff was taking place. So I did want to make a note of that there's a potential for some of them officers that was working back then. They've been a part of my case in some kind of way, shape, form, or fashion, even the DA. So they said the DA was corrupt too. But anyway, went back in, I went on probation, and then that's when they got me for the burglary for sleeping in a laundry room that was attached to the backside of an apartment complex. Door wide open, there's no forced of entry, no fingerprints, no busted locks, no busted windows, no evidence whatsoever that says that there was a breaking and entering even though in California you don't need a break and enter, and that's where the law get misconstrued, because if you in somebody's building, you didn't go in with no intent to commit no felony and no crime, that's not a burglary, that's just simple trespass. Well, that's basically essentially what I was doing. But you see how they can manipulate the law? They can manipulate the law and say, well, we believe that you was trying to steal something, so this is what we gonna prove. And that's what they did. They went in there, convinced the jury that I was somehow supposed to be taking coins up out of a wash machine or a dryer, but none of the stuff, pry marks, no scrapes, no bruises, nothing on none of the machinery, none of that. But the fact that they claimed that I ran from the scene of a crime made me guilty somehow of something. They're not saying I'm guilty of burglary, but it shows a consciousness of guilt because I ran. But nobody had ever asked me why I ran through the whole time that I'm being detained. Nobody asked that question. So when the question finally did come up, it was time for me to testify or take the stand or whatever, which most people in society don't know, that if you already got a criminal past, if you take the stand, whatever you say on the stand, you're going to be impeached anyway, because they're going to use your past to do it. But if you don't take the stand, then you supposed to get a fair shake at a decent trial where ain't nobody knowing about your past, but they all still came back guilty of the charges of first-degree burglary with the enhancement of another person present other than an accomplice. And I'm like, okay, well, who was the other person? Because I was the only one supposed to be in the laundry room according to the security's testimony. I was the only person. But if you listen to their testimony clearly and closely, you would have noticed that there was more than one person. But somehow they wiggled their way up out of that. Somehow they wiggled their way up. So one dude was supposed to be squatting down on this side, and there was another guy over here wearing dark color clothes, and he was, you know what I'm saying, squat. But by the time it was all over with, the security said, well, I didn't see nobody else up in there, so he was the only one in there, right? So that's how I ended up getting convicted, because in their mind, well, if I didn't do it, if I wasn't doing the burglary, then I must know somebody that was doing it, or I was there, or I seen something, and I ain't saying nothing. So, and since you ran, guess what? We're taking you in. With no evidence though, mind you, none, not zilch. So they gave me 30 to life for that. Now, I could have took a deal, I ain't gonna lie, I could have took 4, they said 4.5 or 2 at 85%. But with somebody that's been going through what I've been going through for the last few years of dealing with these strikes and stuff, that's the reason why I got into the situation in the first place, because back when we were young and we were doing stupid stuff, we was basically stacking strikes up on us that we didn't even know nothing we was gonna even have when we got older. So they come with this law, and all of a sudden, you got a burglary here, you got a car auto theft here, you got this. Oh, we can strike you out now and give you 25 life for this theft or for this burglary or this. So that's what I've been essentially going to jail for. So I be putting me in prison with all these hard-up criminals, murderers, rapists, and child molesters, everybody. They got to put me on the yard with them type of people. And then guess what? There's potential for hazard for me now, because I'm in there with the real violent people now. I'm not on no level 1 and 2 and 3 where, no, they got me up in there with a life sentence. So if you're a lifer, they're going to put you with life first. That's what you're compatible with. That's what, you know what I'm saying? So I had to deal with that. But good thing I got a good head on my shoulder, and I stayed in the law library, and I did what I needed to do, try to keep some type of understanding of the law to where I could try to figure out how to navigate my way back to society. Just so happened while I was studying law and doing all that, I was coming up empty, of course, but the laws were changing. We starting to see them change because society is starting to being more aware of what they're doing with their court system and locking black, Mexicans, and others up for all these simple crimes, but giving them all day. Like we ain't no good to society, but just because we done stole some or whatever, right? So they changed the law, they let me back out. So I'm back out here now, and I'm essentially scared to death of any type of reprisal again, because I believe that the first one was the one I was not supposed to got away with, in their opinion. So November 6th, it was cold that night. You see they lying. They're trying to cover up their story.